This is Rise. Let's lock in with the goal of changing one life at a time. Yours. Together, let us rise up, inspire, strengthen, and elevate our minds. It's time to rise on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hello, my name is Dr. Saran Heron, and welcome to Rise. Today we are going to talk about the importance of emotional intelligence, how to teach your children, and raising an emotional intelligent child. Detri McGhee is an expert in emotional intelligence and believes it is critical for everyone to understand and how it can impact your life. Most of her working career was in the insurance and financial service industry, where she earned her chartered financial consultant and chartered life underwriter degrees while working for some of the industry leaders such as New York Life, being an agent and a registered investment advisor, Simmons First Bank, and Stevens Inc., which is training and coordination for the insurance division. After she retired, she created Reaching for Life, Inc., which is a nonprofit dedicated to improving the quality of personal and professional life for area residents in Arkansas. She is here to talk about emotional intelligence and how to change negative emotions into positive, and the importance of investing in oneself is important to her. And we're going to talk about children, ensuring that we raise them well so they can function well in today's society. Detri McGhee, welcome to Rise here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
What a pleasure to be here with you in voice. I love the New York area. I have a child that lives there with his family.
Wonderful. Can you just define for our listeners, what is emotional intelligence? What do we mean when we say that word?
Well, when we talk about intelligence, we know that there's the IQ that measures our intelligent quotient, supposedly how smart we are. And then now we have a lot of AI, and that has to do with the buzzword that's speaking of artificial intelligence. That's kind of an oxymoron to me. If it's intelligent, is it really artificial intelligence? Anyway, that's a whole other subject. EI, then, is emotional intelligence, and it's quickly becoming one of the most sought-after growth needs for today's professionals as well as in our personal lives. Possibly the number one need of us right now as human beings in areas of personal growth. Wikipedia defines EI as the ability to perceive, use, understand, manage, and handle emotions. That's quite a big task there. And so our next question might be, what are the key elements of emotional intelligence? And we're looking at reaching a high level of emotional intelligence doesn't really require an exceptionally high IQ. Some of the most emotionally stable people don't necessarily have great IQs, but they have a great grasp on life. So people with high emotional intelligence, they recognize their own emotions, and then they also recognize the emotions of others, and they can use that information to guide their thinking and their behavior, and they can discern between different feelings and label them appropriately, and they've learned how to adjust their emotions to adapt to the environment so that the end result of their life in every circumstance tends to be much more balanced and much more an end result of something they wanted. That's quite a powerful combination once it's achieved, and it's also very powerful even from the moment that we start to grow in those abilities.
I'll have to agree with you. Wonderful overview of emotional intelligence. Now, you believe parents as well as educators are able to provide resources to children. What are some ways that they could do that?
This is a topic, Dr. Saran, that I think we could spend like days and weeks upon, but I just wanted to suggest a couple of things that we could start with. Perhaps the number one easiest way to get started would be for parents to increase their own and their children's intelligence by helping them put away their phones and their internet tools and start communicating with each other on a personal level, with the intent that the parent is going to try to really understand their child and uncover their true personality, and then identify that child's needs and how to best meet those needs with positive results. It does take work, and it does take time. And actually, it takes caring more about raising your child than you care about chatting on Facebook or catching up on the latest TV shows or researching the best place to buy that new gadget that you may or may not even need. You may have noticed children out in public trying so often to get the attention of their parents. They seem to be begging for that attention only to be ignored or put off. And sometimes that put off time never comes. They never get around to it. So I would just say for parents, ask yourself, if you and your child finally do get in a good conversation and your phone rings, or if it merely dings indicating that maybe you have a text, can you completely ignore that phone or text and stay focused on your child? Or do you feel like you have to check the phone and just be sure it isn't important? That tells us where our priorities are.
Agreed.
And then, of course, we have educators. They are trying so very hard to fill this gap and give our children well-rounded educations. You know, they have, 20 to 30 or more students at one time that they must teach all the other topics too. And so I believe it's important to develop an integrated teaching module that incorporates EI skill development with many of these other topics and simplify the teaching time and requirements, making them more useful and more user-friendly. So we're working, the author that we'll talk about in a little bit of a children's book and I are working on the concept, and we're seeking other active educators, especially elementary school teachers and administrators also, to partner with us on the project and to develop ways that we simplify their teaching tools to accomplish more than one thing at a time. I would just love to see more of our laws and rules and regulations that get passed down to these teachers to be actually brought up and conceived by teachers. You know, we have so many laws. My husband was a teacher for 37 years in agricultural education, and my son is a coach and a teacher, and my daughter taught for quite a few years. And so we have a rich history of being in the education field. And so often the things that they are made to do were forced upon them by people that have no concept of what it's like to they've never even been in an educational teaching environment as adults. And so they really have no concept of what they're asking people to do.
I'll have to totally agree with you on that. Now, you talk about a 80-20 rule. Explain that to us. Share with us, what is that 80-20 rule that you believe in?
The 80-20 rule is based on a principle or a teaching by Prado, who came along and wanted to emphasize the fact that 80% of your outcomes come from 20% of the causes. In other words, as we look and say, if you're in a committee on an organization you're a member of, 20% of the people do 80% of the work. 20% of your employees are going to be responsible for 80% of the profits. And of course, it's a principle. It's not a hard, fast law, but it runs so very true. It's amazing how when you check it out, it runs so very close. It's a helpful concept when we're evaluating where to spend our energy and our time so that we can look at the things we're doing, decide what of those are most bringing the most results, and focus a little more on those and maybe move that 20% of our time that gets 80% of the results, maybe spend 30% of our time on those, and that way we magnify the results that come from it. I think it applies to our teaching also. If we are focusing on getting the outcomes we want, if we just add 5% more to our learning about these skills, it's going to produce 40 to 80% more productivity.
Agree with you. Now, you have a dear friend that wrote a book, and we want to mention that book for how you feel that book could be useful. So you could go ahead and share the title of the book, and how do you feel that this book can be helpful to individuals that maybe listen to the program?
Oh, thank you. It's called The Wonderful Bowl. It's a real cute little book. It's targeted to the 7 to 10-year-old age group. It is a chapter book. And, we teach our children, the old adage was they teach reading grades, kindergarten through grade 2, and they're teaching them to read. And then from grade 3 up, we hope to have children at the level where they are reading to learn instead of learning to read. And so this hits that age group. Our goal is to get as many of these books in the hands of second and third graders in the schools. And by all getting the same book at one time, there's that synergy that can flow through that. And so this young boy in the book, he discovers a little bowl that always stays full. And it stays full with whatever the owner has asked for. So it's an interesting journey that teaches him many life lessons, such as just because you can have as much as you want of something doesn't mean you're going to be happy if you get everything that you think you want. And I think as adults, most of us have found out that can be quite true. It explores things like going to the doctor, keeping secrets, friends, and your responsibility to them, chores at home, and even the consequences of a grumbling attitude, which most of us can benefit from learning a little more about that. Mm-hmm. So it's really helping our children to enjoy the story of reading. At the same time, we're giving them thank you notes with the book that they are encouraged to write a thank you note to the people who supplied the books to them, the donors who have sacrificed to fund this project. Right now we have a project where we have 3 counties here in Arkansas that we are getting books to, all 3 counties, second and third graders. So we're really excited about that. And we're going to go one step further with it because we want to encourage not only reading, but writing and drawing, arts, all kinds of arts. And so we're going to let them write a poem or a story, and we're going to put those into, or draw a picture. And we'll put those into a little anthology book, and we'll give each of them a copy of it. So when we finish, they will each be little published authors.
Wonderful. I love the concept. You are listening to Rise on the Voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Dr. Saran Heron, and today we're talking with Detri McGhee, who's an expert in emotional intelligence, and believe it is critical for everyone to understand and how it can impact your life. Most of her working career is in the insurance and financial service industry, where she earned her chartered financial consultant and chartered life underwriter degrees while working for some of the industry leaders such as New York Life as an agent and registered investor advisor, also for Simmons First Bank and Stevens Inc., are all training coordinator for the insurance divisions of positions she has held. After retiring, she created Reaching for Life nonprofit dedicated to improving the quality of personal and professional life of area residents in Arkansas. And we're here talking about emotional intelligence, how you can change negative emotions into positive, and the importance of investing in oneself is important to her. And so we're going to talk about children and ensuring that we do raise a generation in today's society who is aware of what emotional intelligence is about. Now, Detri, we want to get into some examples for individuals. I know you touched on ways that parents and educators could start to, raise children to be emotional intelligent, but also give someone like an example of an actual, emotional intelligence step that they could actually take other than the phone.
Learning to handle things emotionally mature is not an easy step, but there are some simple things that we can do. And the reason that I created this criticism management program was strictly personal. It was so that I could learn to handle criticism, because I was an amiable on the temperament charts, and I highly recommend a book on temperaments by Dr. Tim LaHaye. It's called Spirit Controlled Temperaments by Dr. Tim LaHaye. I don't make any money off of it, so it's just strictly it's a time-tested book. And it helps you understand the different temperaments of children, but it also helped me understand my different temperament that I was naturally born with, and how I don't want to be a one temperament person. I wanted to be more balanced. And so it helped me see where I needed to work on weaknesses and where I need to develop my strengths. But as we talk about parents raising children who can handle criticism, this also touches on bullying. Because that's what criticism gives bullying its power. They say, you're not as tough as me. You're not as good as me. You have to serve me. And as we learn to stand up to those and find appropriate ways to answer those problems, then we grow. So one young teen that I knew was severely reprimanded by her dad. And I knew that if he was aware of the whole situation, he would be more understanding and not even probably angry with her. But she would not let me tell him the whole story because it would quite probably get her sister in trouble. But if he just merely asked her, why did you do this? And let her explain, he would have seen and he would have said, oh, I see. And he wouldn't have gotten so angry and frustrated with her. So the key, I think, is communicating and learning to really pay attention to other people, getting our mind off of ourselves and how we feel about things and asking, how does this person feel? What are they really saying to me? And not being so easily offended ourselves. Dr. Saran, maybe you would agree with me that this is probably the most judgmental, critical society that we've seen, certainly in my lifetime.
I'll have to agree with you. And very opinionated group of individuals. Everybody has their own idea of what things should be versus what it really is. I have to agree with you on that.
And some of the teaching within the criticism management theology here is to help us understand that it is not our business. It's not even wise to always think that we have to form an opinion about everything. Sometimes it's just wise to stand up and say, I'm just very grateful. That's none of my business. And I don't have to spend one moment trying to decide how I think about that because it's not my business whether the choir robes are pink or blue. It's not my business where they place this within, the office space. So many things that we think we have to not just form an opinion about, but we have to criticize. We have to find what's wrong with things. And we've gotten into such a habit of that we've forgotten how to be thankful and how to find what's right with things and then move on from then. When my grandson was about 2 years old, he's actually a medical doctor now, so this has been a number of years ago. But when he was about 2 years old, he gave me the very grandmotherly task of changing what turned out to be the worst diaper I think I have ever changed. And when I was taking care of that project, I said, boy, and I said it nicely, I said, boy, you did a big smelly diaper this time. And he said very, very mature like, yes, I did. And it kind of took me back and I couldn't help but laugh. But I thought since then, wouldn't it be wonderful if when you and I get involved in the really big messes of life, and sometimes we make them ourselves, sometimes we just have to help clean up other people's messes, sometimes it's a combo. If we could just look at that and say, wow, we've got a big smelly mess, we've got to clean up, let's get about it, and let's see what we need to do to take care of this and get everything back to the way it should be, and not get offended. Not point fingers, not cast blame, but just realize that sometimes we're helping others and sometimes we need help. But we don't have to blame each other. We don't have to get angry. Anger is such a strong factor in today's world. It seems like everyone thinks that they have to be mad about something. So I would just love to see us learn some principles and ways that we could handle these emotions more productively, that we could learn to seek help in the proper places. There's a lot of help out there, and we can look for that. We can find it, we can apply it, and we will all be better because of it.
Now, this brings me to my question that I have for you. Now, parents raising kids to handle criticism is something that you feel that is important, and for us to build quiet times of reflection into children's day. I want you to speak on that for us.
I think that it would be very wise to build into each child's day, starting off with just a few moments of quiet time. Maybe give them something positive to think about. Give them a compliment. Give them a positive thought or from some word that you picked up, and just tell them, look, for just a few moments, I would like for you to just sit here and think about this and think how you could make things better, or just let your mind wander. We're seeing that kids don't know a lot of the time how to do the simplest thing. One of the gentlemen here that owns a monument company tried to hire some teenagers to help him dig the stone area out to place the monuments at the grave sites. And he found out that these big, strong, burly teenagers didn't really even know how to use a shovel. And of course, in Southeast Arkansas, we're amazed. We think everyone is born knowing how to use tools. That's just part of life.
Right.
But our children have to be taught. And our children think how many minutes, start to say how many hours a week your children have just quiet time with no phone, no internet, no computer, nothing in their hands, maybe a toy car or a baby doll or something that's not wind up, just something, but not a mechanical thing, not other people telling them what they have to think and what's important and constantly babbling at them, and just let them think for themselves. Then some of their creativity can burst forward. I'd say start out as a parent. Make yourself do this for 10 minutes every day. Sit quietly in a room for 10 minutes. Of course, I do remember the time when there weren't not 10 minutes in a day, the children weren't around you, but just even 10 minutes of sitting quietly and don't have anything on your mind. Just sit there and see what comes up. Maybe start with 2 to 3 minutes for children, because that's an awfully long time to sit quietly.
I agree with you. You are listening to Rise on the Voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC. My name is Dr. Saran Heron, and today we're talking with Detri McGhee, who's an expert in emotional intelligence, believe it's critical for everyone to understand and how it can impact your life. Most of her working career has been in the insurance and financial service industry, where she earned her chartered financial consultant and chartered life underwriter degrees while working some of the industry leaders such as New York Life, Simmons First Bank, Stevens Inc., and after retiring, she created Reaching for Life, Inc., nonprofit dedicated to improving the quality of personal and professional life for area residents in Arkansas. She is here talking about emotional intelligence, how to change negative emotions into positive, and the importance of investing in oneself is important to her, and talk about how children, ensuring that we raise children today in our today's society, how to cope. Now, Detri, we've been talking for a few minutes now about emotional intelligence. Now, why do you think it's so important in terms of success in one's life? Why is emotional intelligence important for success in one's life?
The higher our level of emotional intelligence, the higher our ability is to control our life and to make wise decisions. By the way, attaining that higher level of EI doesn't mean we have to raise our IQ at the same time. Sometimes it is advanced merely by the stubborn decision that I'm going to grow up. Sometimes that's all we need, is to realize that we've been operating with less than mature emotions and choices. We have so many choices to make in our life, Dr. Saran, so many choices to make, but we cannot choose the consequences. So we need to be teaching our children to think through all the potential consequences of the choice they're about to make, whether to drink or smoke or do something else they know their parents would not want them to do. Think it all the way through to its logical conclusion. And if what you are pretty sure is going to come out at the end is something you don't want in your life, then that has just told you not to do that thing. Just like Josh in the book he can eat all the ice cream and fudge sauce that he wants to, but he's going to pay for it later if he doesn't learn how to discipline himself. And so we see that deciding decisions, thinking who do I want to be 5 years from now?
Right.
Is doing now going to help me be at that point? And if not, what do I need to change? And being willing to change. I love Chinese wisdom. And there's one a little Chinese saying that says, in order to change, you have to, and I leave it blank when we talk about this to people that haven't heard it. I ask them to fill in the blank. And we come up with things like, in order to change, you have to be committed to change. You have to really want to. You have to seek guidance and figure out how to change. But the Chinese say it so succinctly. In order to change, you have to change. We want to be thinner, but we don't want to eat less. We want to be stronger, but we don't really want to exercise. We want to be smarter, but we don't want to take time to study. We have to be willing to change if we truly want things to be different. And it sounds so simple, doesn't it?
Yes, I agree with you. Now, now, Detri, we're about to wrap up the show, but I have a few more things I wanted to mention. Now, your nonprofit, Reaching for Life, made mass during the pandemic, so congratulations on that. You are also the author of Active Prayer, Prayer God Hears. Now, tell us why that title, and how do you feel it could benefit anyone that may be listening to the book, hearing it for the first time, in a few words?
Okay. Active prayer stands for the ACTIVE, stands for just like a 5-step method for kind of thinking through our prayer time. Praying is just communication. And as we mature in our communication with people, our method of that communication changes. As we get more accustomed to the person we're speaking with and communicating with, we're going to tell them more. We're going to be able to understand more of what they're telling us. And as we trust them more, we're going to be able to be more authentic with them, to be more open and truthful with them. So the elements of active prayer are A for attributes, C for confession, T for thanksgiving, I for intercession, V is for victory, and E is for evangelism. And I suppose if only one thing could come out of the book, it would be my encouragement to begin your prayers to God with a time of praying His attributes. Maybe write out a couple of your prayers and then circle the letter I, me, my. Even when we start out and we say, I come to you, Lord. So take the I, me, my out of the first 3 sentences and just say, Father, you are, and give Him the praise and speak His attributes. And there's a little chart in the little booklet that lists a lot of the attributes. You can just go to that chart is when you first start the concept and just pray those attributes of Him.
Wonderful. Now, how could listeners connect with you if they wanted to reach out to you and get more information on your other books and projects that you're working on? Go ahead and share. How could listeners get in touch with you?
criticismmanagement.com.
Thank you, Detri, for being here today. We appreciate you coming on the program. I'm Dr. Saran Heron. I hope this episode was informative and you now better understand emotional intelligence and how you too can impact our children in today's society. Thank you for listening to this week's edition on Rise, available wherever you listen to podcasts and always right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.